everyone. So this is your somewhat monthly episode of Ben does a load of work off camera, forgets to film anything, and then has to give you a really long catch up as to what I've done. So last you guys would have seen was the paint going on. Basically all I've done since then is just start to add in a couple of the small little bits and pieces into the engine bay, just so I know where things are going. So if we take you through some bits that are in here already. Fuel lines I've run underneath, so you can just about see up the top here. That is, so this is aluminium hardline from T7 Designs. It's all a bit dusty because I'm not sure why. With some hardline converters to AN6, and then we've got some nice black PTFE lines. So that's up to the radium fuel pressure regulator, which has got a fuel pressure sensor in there for the EFI setup. That doesn't come as part of the EFI kit, but you can add it on if you want to. This regulator is a fixed 3-bar or 3.5 bar setup, so it's perfect. But the fuel pressure sensor is going in for us just so we can make sure the loom is all set for it, and we've got a load of fail-safes done. We have got a load of Funk Motorsport heat reflective blanket material. So this isn't just the standard gold tape. This is like fiberglass backing with gold tape on the front. So that's top and bottom, and it sort of comes all the way down to the edge just here. Obviously we're a dealer for these guys, so there's no reason we wouldn't fit it to our own car. New master cylinder's gone in, so we said a while back servo's never going back in this car because they're terrible, awful things that don't really do anything. So brand new yellow tag, original clutch master. We have got a couple of DSN goodies, or Retro Sport or S-Scan. I can't keep up with the name changes. So bulkhead blanking plates both sides. So we're still going to run the heater pipes through here, but we just wanted something a bit neater. We've gone for some of their billet subframe mounts. We do have a silver set on the floor. It's just what I could get hold of for free off of a friend. We've got the billet top solids and the underbody solid ones as well. I mean, biggest thing is this is potentially the first time you guys have seen it in colour, so maybe I should have talked about that first. So this is tweed grey. Now against the colour of the car, it looks potentially a little darker than I was expecting, which isn't necessarily a problem. I kind of wanted it a darker grey, but we are eventually going to paint the outside of the car in this colour. So, spoiler alert. We wanted to go with something that was more subtle to begin with now. Still fits with the green, but also will work with the future colours. So I was kind of on the fence what colour to go for on the outside, but now I've seen this laid down in the engine bay with the gold and the black accessories. Perfect. So that's definitely what we're going to do. But to be honest, that's a long way down the line because I've pretty much spent all of the money on this car already. So welcome to life. So subframe is already in. I've not done anything with that. I'll give it a quick jet wash once all the engine and stuff is back in there again. All I've done otherwise. So taco wire in. Again, most of this has been weirdly cut. I got no idea why. Tried to work out if it was because someone had accidentally cut through the loom, or they tried to extend it or shorten it or something, but none of it really makes sense. So we're just going to go through, tidy it up. We've got loads of like weird connectors that we'll probably just clean up and replace for nice shiny new ones. But main goals tonight is going to be engine stuff. So we've got crank pulley to swap over. So we're going to put one of the Med S dampers on there, same as we supply in all the rest of the kits. So all we've got to do is roughly find TDC. The luxury with a Haltech setup is even if I'm 180 degrees off, I can change the offset in the map. So not too fussed as to where TDC ends up on this, luckily. Other bits we're going to do, we've got some new studs. This exhaust is a new one, it's just a cheap off-the-shelf Manaflow. to replace the crusty old one that's over there that had God knows how many holes and stuff in it. Otherwise, not doing too much to the engine. We'll just give it a little tidy up. I've got some new head studs and head nuts coming because, you know, I painted over them really badly. Throwing some retro sport goodies on there already, so black rocker bolts, black heater tap, black dizzy blank, which weirdly comes with a silver fastener, which I think is quite odd. Black clutch bracket. Might put one of the Med billet clutch slaves on if time, budget and can be botheredness arrives. But otherwise, hopefully, potentially this will end up in that hole tonight, but we'll see. We have got, so this is all the standard wiring which would normally sit kind of up here. It's really weird, so mini wiring comes out and joins up to the rear loom for it to go back inside the car again, which makes no sense. So we're going to tuck all of that inside the car instead now. So wiper plug, for instance, instead of running over the top and then down, is going to go inside along the back at the top and then through the little hole up here instead. That just makes more sense. So wiring stuff inside, we've got, while I sit on the gear linkage and everything else that's in here. Okay, so this looks like chaos, but there's method to it to a point. So on the dash tray, we've got the Nexus S2 and our fuse box that is sat on top of a little laser cut aluminium panel. Let's see if I can pull it out without taking the whole wiring out. So that fits nicely in the hole. That won't come as part of the full kit, but it will be like an optional extra. So there'll be the ability that you can put the ECU underneath if you want to. So there's a couple of guys that have got these already that are testing them for me that have done the same. And you can just flip them over and they'll sit on that side if you want them to, without too much of a problem. So stuff here, so this is all to finish off. So fuse box controls the main ECU relay, fuel pump, injectors and the ignition coil. So we have this cable here, so that will go straight down to the starter motor. That's the main feed for the fuse box, so for everything. We've got, this one will go to the back of the car for the fuel pumps. We've got a large feed for the coil, and then this one is two feeds for the injectors, and then there's another cable in there that we're going to splice into 4 or 5 that is the power for all the various different sensors and things. Obviously you guys don't need to know this, because if you ever buy the kit, which you should, it'll all come with labelled plugs, so you don't really care, but no, here we are. And then this is all the rest of the Haltech stuff. So all of this, or most of this should I say, will end up inside the engine bay for various different things. So I've already gone through, we've got ignition for 1 and 4, there's fuel pump control in there which will just move, but yeah, looks terrible, but it's not that bad, so it'll be okay. What other stuff are we doing in here? So now IMM is cancelled, because you know, everyone got screwed on that one. There's a load of stuff that we weren't going to do that we now arguably don't have time for because I want the car done, but we now have time for because there's no deadline. So we're going to put a billet shifter in, which just means we'll do solid engine mounts and things like that. Dash wise, kind of changed. I was going to put a padded dash rail back in the bottom, but I'm not going to bother anymore because I think it will just change. It will change the look a little bit too much. So we're going to trim the top dash rail just with some kind of vinyl that matches what's going to go on the seats, and then we're going to trim the bottom, and I'm probably going to 3D print some sort of switch panel that will house the right switches. Sadly, the billet ones that are available at the minute only come with the holes for like choke and heater and stuff like that. Choke we don't have, EFI. Heater, I'm not having a tap for that's going to be controlled by a cable. I'm potentially just going to put some sort of little industrial ball valve in here somewhere. I want to be able to turn it off, but the standard taps look terrible, so that's not happening. Seats wise, we're going to get a set of Cobra Monte Carlos in here. They're going to go to a friend of ours to get retrimmed. So we're going to get something kind of nice in the middle that will tie in with the future look of the car. That'll be rear seats or rear benches as well. Door cards aren't actually that bad, but might get them to do something. I'll probably change the door furniture to maybe something a little racy, I'm not sure. Carpets are a god awful green at the minute, which seems to be a Clubman estate thing, who knows. They're going to go black. Front's all going to be black. Basically, the car in the end is going to be tweed grey on the outside, black roof, black interior with some throwbacks, and then we're going to do a couple of like the 998 colour sort of tweaks. So obviously the engine is the same colour as the 998. It's going to look crap while the car is still green. I appreciate that, but I had the paint, so why not? Eventually there'll be some really cool design stripes down the side, which will have a little kickback with that 998 colour. But otherwise, I just kind of want to get it on the road. So, one thing you saw me do there that you should never do is use the old Ooga Dooga on the crank pulley. I left the torque wrench at work. I don't care about this engine. It's not coming loose because the way Med have designed the lock-in tab ain't going anywhere. So this one will be fine. The next one, and every other engine I build, torque it up. So next things to do, so I've just put the sensor brackets on. I don't think you'll be able to see this even if I do put my hand behind it. We've just got to gap the sensor to the trigger wheel, and then I'm going to rotate it back to TDC again, and then just put a little mark somewhere on the pulley so that I can use it as a reference for a timing light once it goes back in. But nice and easy otherwise. Luckily the old one came off pretty well. This does need a water pump and stuff thrown at it, but I can do all of that whilst it's in the car. So I'm going to get to adjusting the air gap, then I'm going to throw the mount back on, and then I think I might try and put it in the car. Annoyingly, I've lost my big box of bolts, all my big Imperial sets, so I'm hoping that's at work somewhere. But for now, we're just going to throw it in, loosely sit it on the mounts, and then at least we can work on wiring routings and things like that. Sweet, that was easier than I expected. So, engine's in. There she is. I think, to be honest, it looks better on camera than it does in real life. I'm going to have to do a lot of tidying up with the blue engine paint, just to try and make it look like it's not done with a brush by an impatient knobhead. So, just thrown inlet and exhaust on. Clearance is fine, I haven't done anything down the back yet. You might see me on the time lapse just rest the billet throttle body into place, which looks fairly swanky. Engine will tilt forwards a bit and then we'll be able to get the filter on the back. I just don't have 5 hands, sadly. Fuel lines all seem pretty good. So, I said this one on the left here will come up straight into the fuel rail, and then the one on the back side of the fuel rail will come back into here, so that'll be quite hidden. Wiring wise, like we said earlier, I want to try and run this down the leg of the subframe, so straight down and then across at the bottom, so I'm going to have to do some messing about with wire lengths here because the starter to the alternator cable looks like it had run from the battery, it's that long. Typically I did a load of work, if you can see it, put in some Deutsch connectors and a load of nice braiding on the lights at the front. Again, me being impatient, I should have just waited till it was all in the car, because I'm probably going to have to undo most of that just so I can tidy the loom up out of the way. 2 reasons for doing it. One, when the turbo goes in, the turbo is going to sit right here, so it's probably a good idea to keep all the wiring out of the way. So yeah, not a huge amount left to go in. I'm going to have like a big empty space here, so maybe I'm going to do myself an injustice, but I was just going to put the new fuse box in the standard spot just there, but I'm now wondering if it goes somewhere here instead. Maybe not, who knows. I'm not fussed if the bay is like, I don't want the bay to be shaved, but I do want it to look kind of clean, and I know there's a load of holes here, there and everywhere, which is less than ideal, but it's not the end of the world. And I think there's enough on the engine bay, like on the bulkhead side of things, to not look ridiculous. However, that's a big gaping hole, so it does need to get filled with something. So we'll see. Typically I ran out of Tessa tape rewrapping all of this, so if I decide to redo and move the fuse box, I'm going to have to take all of that Tessa tape back off, and then it probably means extending a load of wires, which seems like a lot of aggro when, let's be honest, if this is probably going onto a PDM at some point and I'll have to redo the whole loom anyway. Yep, that's decision made. Okay, that's going to go exactly where the old one was. Cool, so I think we're going to call it for tonight. The red light's flashing at me to tell me the battery's about to run out, so I think we've made good progress. Engine's in, which is probably more than I hoped for. We did do it with the drive shaft in, so that's why you would have seen me messed about with the angle a little bit. But otherwise, all good. See you guys in the next one.